Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey? I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from the Chronicles of Cosmos, and we're at chapter 3. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though, so without further ado. Teenage alien sim hybrid Cosmos Nimeroo's savings were adding up quickly. She had only been working for a month, and she already had enough for the flight over to Sulani. All she had to do now was save just a little more to make sure she'd have food covered too. She wasn't sure exactly how long she'd go for. She figured $200 to $300 would be more than enough though. How much could things cost anyway? First though, she was forced to go to Selva Dorada with her family. Her big brother Oberon spent practically the whole time on the phone to his girlfriend Giselle, who he'd not been allowed to bring, while their parents ran around like a pair of newlyweds. Cosmos was left fuming and alone the whole time. Why was she even here? She did go on a few adventures while she was in Selva Dorada. There was honestly nothing else to do. And she learned a little about the local culture, but the whole experience was very gross. Cosmos absolutely hated the rainforest, with all its bugs and hot, muggy weather. To think that she could have been in Sulani, enjoying the ocean breezes. She was so mad at her dad for all this. Magnus had no idea that his daughter was dissatisfied though, as she hid it well. He thought that he was doing such a good job with his family, even with Oberon's girlfriend Giselle being pregnant. He and Kalaya were happy. Cosmos got great grades, and Oberon had graduated with honours before following in his father's footsteps and starting as a scientist. The only person Cosmos shared her secrets with at this stage was her pet rat, Cheesecake. She had had Cheesecake since she was 11, and he was a very smart little rodent. In fact, she was pretty sure that at one stage he had even built a mini rocket of his own, and she had wanted to prepare him for her disappearance. The night before she left, Cosmos had filled Cheesecake's dishes as high as she could and hugged him close to her. She'd nearly planned to bring him with her, but she knew she wouldn't have been able to smuggle him on the plane, and he was safe here. She couldn't guarantee that he'd be safe where she went. No. She just hugged him goodbye and hoped her parents would take care of him for her. The next morning, Cosmos got up early and left for work as usual. She even worked her regular shift. She just didn't go to school afterwards. Instead, Cosmos Nimeroo took her paycheck from her manager, cashed it at the bank down the road, and hailed a taxi to take her to the airport. She arrived in Sulani by mid-morning and made it to the beach by lunchtime. It was just like she remembered. Everything was so beautiful that it almost hurt to look at, and she was so glad she'd come back. She was a little sad to be missing out on prom and graduation, but it would all be okay. Cosmos had actually thought ahead, a little. She'd found and chosen a tiny uninhabited island before she arrived. To get there, she had rented a small sailboat and had used that to carry her tent and a few other camp necessities in. She planned to return the boat the next day, and then swim back. It all went off without a hitch. Literally everything went according to plan. Cosmos was buoyed with self-confidence now. She was only 15 years old, yet she'd managed to outwit her parents and run away to live at the beach like she'd always dreamed. This was great. If only her parents could see her now. Cosmos was about to get her wish. Magnus and Kalaja were furious. They had been up all night worried sick about their daughter and had taken the first flight out to Sulani they could. They'd then had to play detective all over the islands to track Cosmos down, and all because she couldn't wait to go to the beach. Looking around them as they approached an unsuspecting Cosmos, Magnus was half horrified and half impressed by the little home his daughter had built around herself in just one day. It was obvious that this was more than a mere whim. She'd planned all this. But why? Why this urgency? Kalaja didn't understand either. She was so confused by her daughter. Cosmos had always wanted to go her own way, and Kalaja had always tried to support her. But to have her sneak away like that, to think that she was happier in a tent on the beach than in their home, it was heartbreaking. Cosmos apologized to her parents. She truly hadn't meant to worry them like that, and she'd always loved and been so happy in their home. It wasn't like that. In fact, she had felt so secure in leaving because, she knew that she could always go back. But this was what she needed to do. She couldn't quite explain it to herself, let alone them, but Cosmos knew that she was meant to be in Sulani. The ocean had called to her ever since their family holiday here when she was a little girl, and the older she got, the stronger the pull became. And now that she'd finally come back, the thought of then leaving again, it was untenable. Magnus didn't care how tenable she found it. Cosmos was only a teenager, and they were her parents. She was not going to be left alone to live in a blasted tent at the beach. That was what was truly untenable. How negligent would they be if they just let her get away with such a mad, harebrained idea? Suddenly, Magnus felt himself changing his mind. Later, when he came to think of it, he wasn't quite sure what was happening or how it had happened, really. Kalaja must have had something to do with it. He always got foggy when she won an argument. But it was almost as if another perspective had forced itself into his brain. Once upon a time, long ago in their own story, Kalaja had followed her own heart against Magnus's advice and instincts, and as a result, she had saved StrangerVille from the great mother plant. Now, years later, their daughter Cosmos, who was an independent, autonomous creature, had chosen a path, and she had a right to walk it, even if they, as her parents, didn't really like it. Cosmos was a smart girl and had had enough credits at high school to graduate early for months now. What if they just let her go? And that brings us to the end of Chapter 3 of the Chronicles of Cosmos. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye!